I don't ever judge a book by its cover, and that means resume, age, anything. I look for aptitude.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to another episode of Secrets of Silent Success. Today we have the one and only Aaron Jenkins. How you doing this afternoon?
Hey, I'm doing great.
Good.
Another Thursday that feels like a Monday.
There you go. Every day is Monday out there. Wow, right?
That's right. That's right.
Awesome. So we'll jump right into it, right? So started HeartCentrix, the IT staffing company, as well as Code Report, which is a screening platform for IT applicants. Tell me a little bit about your journey from corporate America to entrepreneurship and where you are today.
Okay. I started my career about 10 and a half years ago at a small firm named Intellicorp. Really my first corporate-ish job, even though it was a smaller company supporting Fortune 50 size clients. Small dynamic there internally, reporting to directly to the CEO, which was a great experience because I got to wear multiple hats at a smaller company. Having said that, learned a lot, grew a lot in my career, and obviously over time, the natural evolution was to start those companies that you named.
Sure. So talk to me a little bit about that transition on starting those companies. How did that come about?
Really kind of came to a point where, when you work for a smaller company, there's not, I guess, a natural progression from, individual contributor to manager to senior manager, senior manager to director. It just kind of came to a point where I was juggling so many different titles at a small firm, because you could go from being the lead sales guys to taking out the trash in the office. And it just was a natural progression that I felt like I was wearing the hats of an entrepreneur.
Sure.
And I figured that I would take that leap of faith and really try to go after it.
Got you. So tell me a little bit about IT staffing, right? One of the interesting things about recruitment or staffing is that you almost have clients on two fronts, right? You have your applicants who are looking to get hired, and then you have the employers who are looking to hire the applicants. How do you balance both sides of the equation, or do you even work on both sides of the equation?
No, you're exactly right. You definitely are serving clients in two ways. Your candidates become your customers when they become your consultants on clients, and obviously the end clients are clients as a whole as well, because without either, you can't make it work.
Sure.
Going back to the original question, why don't you repeat it for me one more time, though?
Yeah, just how do you balance that, right? You have clients on both fronts. How do you balance being the person in the middle?
No. The first question you came back was the staffing piece as a whole.
Yeah.
Staffing was, especially IT staffing, was a very dynamic jump into the industry, because I don't have a single technical bone in my body.
Okay.
So from coming in and trying to understand what a business systems analyst was to an architect or a developer was extremely challenging.
Sure.
I came from a world of athletics. I got lucky enough to go play Division I baseball at Northern Iowa, which there's no program anymore, and ended up getting drafted by Oakland Athletics, which I was a Moneyball guy, if you've ever seen that movie, to obviously ending and then coming into this career. But coming full circle, really, I lived in this black and white world, and staffing was like stepping into kind of the unknown. So they were asking me, basically as an account manager and account executive, to meet with the individual business units that were looking for IT needs, getting with my team, finding what those needs were, finding the people for those needs. So it was really challenging at the beginning, kind of understanding all the different jargons. But just like anything, over time, you start to understand just enough to be dangerous, which I did, and really used my relationships of the placements that I did get within clients and companies to help give me the knowledge to be able to find the skill sets for future placements. Back to the success of my past company, Intellicorp. Obviously, great success. Came into Intellicorp at American Airlines as a medium-sized vendor. Had about 30 or so consultants when I started. After three or so years, we moved into being the #1 supplier in the world. Wow. Had a headcount total of 180 on payroll at once, which was substantially more. Obviously, we went through a merger with U.S. Airways. There was a lot of things going on. Over the 10 years, placed about 1,000 people. Attrition happened, managers left, got bounced into Southwest, Hilton, Pepsi, AT&T, Boston Consultant Group, Toyota. There's a long list. It was awesome. Obviously, once you do well with one manager, they take you to the next part.
Mm-hmm.
How that success came, right, is, as I told you before, not a technical bone in my body. I literally would leverage my top placements in the field in certain domains: Java, Tableau, SQL, .NET, what have you. When jobs came out, because a lot of jobs are reoccurring,
Mm-hmm.
I would literally, get, all of my candidates to one of my top people, and we'd set up Zoom rooms at night, and they would interview, and they'd actually live code in these interviews. So, believe it or not, if we're searching for a software developer in Dallas, Texas, if I reach out to, 100 people on the job boards, LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, Monster, etc., and I get about 30 on the phone that finally look the part, act the part, sound the part,
Mm-hmm.
fit the money, fit the schedule, whatever it is. Guess how many can actually code?
20% of them?
One.
Wow.
So I literally would get these Zoom rooms up. I'd have all these different actions going on with all my leaders, and then I would finally have that one candidate. So then obviously I can validate if you can speak, if you have good references or what it is.
Yeah.
And then I'd produce that one to my clients, and that was the method. They knew that Aaron was going to vet and understand what I needed and walk in the winner, because most of the other vendors, right, we're just sending them in off the job boards and rolling the dice. And managers and managers' teams' time is very important to not set up interviews and have wasted time.
Yeah.
So all in all, really, I tried to digitize that entire process with Code Report.
Yeah.
Code Report is a live technical screening platform, really dedicated to developers. So before we even really have to speak to anybody, right, we send them to our platform.
Yeah.
They log on, they live code. I get basically pinged right away if they can code or not. Then I'm having that discovery call. So now I'm not talking to 100 people to get to 30. I'm talking to 15 to 10 that can already do the job.
Yeah.
And then we send them on into the client. It's been ultra successful. It's saved a lot of time. We're implementing with some large companies right now, DXC, Dell, working on a lot of different things. So it's been very, very exciting. Had a big meeting with Shark Tank from Damon John from Shark Tank last week. Got a lot of valuable information on that. And I think at one point it's going to be kind of a validated marketplace.
Yeah.
Because right now there's not a place where you can go and really truly know that the people that I am speaking to actually can do what their profile says. Because right now you can mark that you had a PhD from Harvard, and no one's going to question it.
Yeah.
Which is sad. I'm not saying you'd ever do that, but but individuals will really do whatever it takes to get in front of a client. And at the end of the day, time is valuable. So utilizing Code Report, leveraging that product is going to save a company a tremendous amount of time.
Yeah. Now, I think that was interesting because it's not just a staffing agency, it's the product that you're using within the staffing agency that's, not saying the staffing agency is not cool, but you say they're a dime of dozen, right?
You're exactly
the product.
Right. And right now the companies are separate in nature, me being the founder of both.
Yeah.
We've had partners and investors that are very interested in trying to merge both of them together, because the biggest differentiator, right, is that there isn't one company that uses their own proprietary software to help them staff.
Yeah.
We're leaning on these other tools, HackerRank, Glider, CoderPad, CodeSignal, to implement them in, but nobody's doing it end to end.
Yeah.
And also, taking the expertise of what I've gained over the last 10 years is the pipelines. Yeah. How do you get people interested?
Yeah.
How do people want to apply, want to sign up? I think Code Report is going to be. I think people are going to have an appetite for understanding. Hey, I don't want to do 40 first-round interviews anymore.
Yeah.
I want to interview one time on the platform, and then the next interview is going to be with the client. And I think people could appreciate that. Clients will also be like, look, I already know this person's validated.
Yep.
I think it's going to catch fire. So I'm very excited over the next 6 months are huge.
Got you. You talked about making that huge transition. You're talking about from athletics to IT staffing. I'm sure there was some challenges in there, maybe even sometimes a discouragement. What advice do you have to someone who makes a huge jump like that, whether it's changing industries or just changing jobs? What advice would you give to someone so they can do it successfully?
Well, if I have to go back to the upbringings with sports and college, it's putting in the side work. You would never imagine that a major league professional pitcher fields ground balls, from home to the pitcher for 3 hours a day. What I had to do really to kind of put myself, I guess, in the right mindset to be successful is I had to study. I mean, I definitely was the first person to the office, the last. I was the idiot in every meeting asking questions. I was asking questions that didn't even matter. And people were like, why you even ask that? I'm like, well, I just thought it might be relevant to understand how it all works.
Sure.
So once I, figured out all the rules of the game, that's when it became easy.
Got you. Talking about the rules of the game, one thing that's interesting with a staffing company is that you're working with organizations that potentially have people in-house that do what you do, right? I'm a media provider. Most companies have a marketing, department within the company. They have media creators within the company. What challenges have you faced with working with companies who have people inside the company that do what you do? How do you overcome those challenges?
That's a great question. The last thing you want to try to do is, start a civil war between people that are there to do a job, and obviously we're there to do a job. So really, what I found to be the most successful is obviously building relationships with those talent acquisition teams, finding exactly what, my swim lane was there for and what theirs was for. And now there's overlap, obviously.
Yeah, sure.
But, there's a reason when it comes to IT staffing, because it's a difficult skill set to identify. And that's why they usually use the agency or boutique partners to be able to kind of cover those gaps. And or just contractors as a whole, because a lot of internal companies don't, they're just there to find permanent resources.
Yep.
So understanding the boundaries and then, creating those relationships and having open dialect, that's what served me well.
Yeah. When you're, sourcing candidates or looking for candidates, how do you deal with the fact that you don't know a company's culture, right? You're not boots on the ground inside the company. You are a contractor in a sense, right? How do you deal with that when you're looking to hire people for a certain company?
Well, discovery calls are obviously very important. But using my American Airlines example, the company that I was with, Intellicorp, had served them for more than 20 years. So we had some legacy knowledge there.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, time served was the best.
Okay.
What's it really like to show up to, Skyview 8?
Yeah.
How was a day? Was the walk from Skyview 7? Learning the intricacies about the client is what helped. Because I think just like I love media and social media, old school word of mouth is usually the best source of information.
Sure.
So collecting all of that, being able to speak that helped, and not to mention, I placed my entire family tree at American Airlines from my wife, my mom, and my sister.
Wow.
Really understanding in all different organizations, IT and business, gave me leverage, because that's, one of the reasons that helped out a lot there.
Sure. So for those of us who can't plant the family tree at an organization, you mentioned a discovery call, the importance of the discovery call. I know for me, when I'm talking to a client on a discovery call, I'm not wanting to talk at all. I'll talk just to ask the question and then I'll be quiet. Right? What are some of your tips and tactics and things that you do on the discovery call to extrapolate all the information that you need?
Well, the first thing is, if it's not the right DNA mix, sometimes you have to say no to business, right?
We're going to come back to that in a second. But
it's one of the hardest things in the world, but aligning your philosophies with a company and understanding how they do things is very critical. Because if it's not a good candidate experience, it doesn't matter how many candidates, how good they are. If you can't get to the finish line, it means nothing. So with that call, you have to be very direct on, things they've battled, things that worked, and, be able to really kind of absorb those things and put them into motion.
Got you. You talked about, hey, the DNA match has to be there. You're a fairly young company still, right? How do you, what's the discernment process on, hey, this is a good fit, this is not a good fit? When you're first starting out, you want everybody to be a good fit because you got payroll to cover, right? No. So what's your thoughts around that?
Reviews, referrals, really, you try to lean on those. The saying that the grass is not always greener somewhere else, but it's green where you water it.
Yeah.
So you kind of stick to what you know and really try to go all in there. Taking time. I mean, the number one difference between the way I do things and most vendors do things is the vetting process is a lot more thorough.
Mm-hmm.
It can't work anymore with just a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a virtual world, so we're using Teams and Zoom, et cetera. But
Yeah.
it takes time to make sure that you're putting the person in the right spot, not just trying to throw a body in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that could be your first and last opportunity with a client if it doesn't work out.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the philosophies that I like to live by within my media company is almost a professional athlete philosophy, right? And you would understand this, the amount of time and attention that you give to professional athletes is insane, right? You'll have a basketball roster with 12 people, but you got 15 coaches, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's taking the time. How are you able to do the vetting and take the time, but still be efficient, make deadlines, and get your client what they need while still having your due diligence?
Yeah, and it's a word that we like to toss freely, right? Is automation.
Okay.
But with that, you have to have the right tools to be able to help you speed up and also slow down when you need to.
Mm-hmm.
So using technology is a huge form of the way that I've been able to scale, take on more, be even more precise, and be even more matter of fact.
Okay.
So the advice I would probably say is using technology.
Got you. Yeah, you talked about scaling. You talking about in a 10-month period, you guys have scaled tremendously, right? Tell me a little bit about that 10-month journey. How have you all been able to scale, and what's the future holds for you all?
I think the other saying that I like to say is that finding clients is important, but the most important client is the person in front of you. And that's the approach that I've taken with working with one client, being all in, asking, hey, can I meet your, just expanding from within. And that's what's opened up other opportunities, because in this industry, your name means everything. And if somebody trusts you and you've delivered, they're always going to come back to that versus somebody off the street.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact stats. I know they're probably pretty bad, but staffing companies are a dime a dozen. I mean, they're everywhere. They're always virtual, and really nobody knows anything about them. It's been awesome being unique, because also there's not very many African American owned staffing vendors, and African American owned, but also living up to diversity numbers in that as well. Because about 40% of what I place is African American, which is also another tactic that a lot of companies are very interested in, building those special diversified pipelines.
Awesome. Yeah, tell me a little bit about that, having a staffing firm, like you said, they're a dime a dozen, but not Black owned, right?
Yeah.
And not sourcing Black candidates.
Yeah.
Tell me, what was your thought process when you decided to go down that niche, right? And then tell me, how are you continue to fill that pipeline?
Yeah, I mean, the conversation really, I think kind of arose to the world, right, with the George Floyd incident, which happens to be less than 10 miles from where I grew up. And immediately, right, all of my big name clients said, hey, well, let's measure these diversity numbers, right? And me, myself, right, working for not a minority owned company, I was like, okay, well, we went to measuring and looking and finding out, and we found out that about 48% or so of our placements were African American, and that was just tremendous, because the IT average was less than like 16%.
Wow.
And companies, after we started delivering these numbers, are like, well, how are you doing this? And I'm like, I don't know. And then we look for more of a, I don't want to say natural aspect, but half of our employees were African Americans, so maybe African Americans just wanted to work with African Americans.
Sure.
And I think that's just kind of natural, and people feel a lot more comfortable working with somebody that might look like them, somebody that they understands them, or maybe understands the same trials and tribulations they had. So that's really all I could attest to it, was that when it comes to hiring, if you want to hire individuals, you have to have individuals in those roles searching for those type of people. And not just, it can't just be somebody of a nationality or creed. It's got to be somebody competent as well. Because when you start to put somebody in that isn't qualified, they'll smell that out right away. So, that was a major thing that, people felt like they were getting all the information working with me and my team.
Yeah. I don't want to go too far down the recruitment a tangent, right? Because this wasn't even in the show notes, but I'm curious. You brought up a really good point. You don't want to just fill the pipeline with diverse candidates. You want to fill it. You want to fill it with qualified diverse candidates. What's been your experience with finding those diverse candidates that are qualified, right?
Yeah.
Because if you're not getting it in grade school, you're not getting it in college, you're not getting, you're not going to be qualified for this IT high level position.
Yeah.
What's been your experience with finding diverse qualified candidates?
I don't ever judge a book by its cover, and that means resume, age, anything. I look for aptitude. Any athlete can tell if somebody can run, right? I've been able to develop that ability over the years, but I'm not hesitant to just jump on the phone, even though a resume might not look like it fits a job description. I can't tell you how many people I placed that were maybe out of bounds on the job description, but could get in shape real quickly if somebody gave them a chance. And those happened to be great resources that ended up, flourishing at these companies. So I think, other things that I think are important is just discovering, not being lazy. What's 3 minutes gonna hurt? I already spent 30 seconds looking at the resume. Everybody will find a reason to say no. I'm trying to look for the reasons on why to say yes. And that really has helped out a lot.
Gosh, you're really looking at the candidate holistically, if you will, right? So then I would ask you on the flip side of that, if you say, hey, I think this is a candidate worth taking, you say training them up for this position, how do you then, convince your client that, hey, this is worth, I don't want to say taking a chance on, but worth, taking a chance on?
There's a lot of different reasons, right? And there's understanding your client. Sometimes budget is an important thing.
There you go.
Pay less. This person will take less. They want to be there. Because we start getting into positions where we try to fit individuals in, it always comes down to price point. Well, we always usually know that most people are looking for the bigger, better deal. I'm looking for somebody that might be, content, or this might be a step up from where they thought they should have been because they're giving you that much more. It's a company win if somebody can be in a spot for 2 years. Company usually makes money. The person's happy. Obviously we'd want someone to stay somewhere forever, but if we can get to that goal, that's important as well. So I think just understanding where you can maneuver, and that kind of, like I said, comes back to learning the rules of the game. And every single client and every single manager within clients are different. So once you understand, what it takes to make that person happy, then you can know what you can get away with.
You talk about, we're talking about hiring, recruitment, all of that. In the IT world right now, there's been a lot of layoffs, right? This is a turbulent market when it comes to technology. How has your company dealt with that, and what do you foresee with the job market in IT going forward?
It's definitely been an unfortunate time, especially for the folks that are involved in talent acquisition, HR, products. But my core business really is hardcore development. And that hasn't taken a hit because obviously we know that we have to sustain and keep applications going, because without the applications, obviously, you can't run a business or generate revenue most of the time. So it's been pretty steady. Companies have been obviously very selective on their next moves. But in the words of my last employer, staffing usually is the first thing to sink, but also going to have the greatest incline when people are ready to get back to business. So if you can weather the storm, create relationships, we're going to climb out of this. And, the first method is going to be contract, because they don't want to make those commitments from a permanent standpoint.
That makes a ton of sense. It makes a ton of sense. Let me ask you this. You talked a lot about learning the rules of the game, if you will. What's been your biggest lesson so far with your staffing company?
Biggest lessons is, one, definitely underestimated being a CEO. I've always been a natural sales guy, but understanding the intricacies on payroll and finance and budget has been a challenge. I think slowing down and really understanding the scope of work that you get yourself into is extremely important, even if it's your own internal, business, let alone taking on projects from other employers. That has been a lesson learner in itself. But the only way to counter that is surrounding yourself with mentors that have kind of been there, done that. And I've been lucky enough to, I'm not afraid to say, how'd you do that? And how did it work? So, I don't make the same mistakes. Because often it happens too much in just regular life where you get proud, or you just want a quick fix. And it ends up being more painful than just taking the time to understand how to get it done the right way.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we got, Major League Baseball to you were, I want to say higher up in a small company because there were no levels that you talked about, but hey, we're successful in that company. Now you got HeartCentrix and Code Report. You've had all of the success. Name of the podcast is Secrets of Silent Success. So tell me, what is your secret to success?
Secret. Grit. Can never give up. There'll be days where, you're like, do I really want to do this? You'll doubt yourself. But you have to center yourself with family, center yourself with positive role models to push through it. If you do not have the determination and drive, it'll be very, very difficult to be successful. So all in all, really the secrets of success is you just got to keep grinding. And you'll understand at a point in time that, as dumb as the saying sounds, if you build it, they will come. When you have it set up and the infrastructure set up, might not be year one, probably won't be year two, but it'll be easy because the sales will come to you, especially if you've been, doing a good job. Yeah. So, I mean, that's the secret right there. And it sounds stupid and easy, but as you know, with your own business, and it's not easy to get up and push yourself. Yeah. So
cool. We'll leave it right there.
Yeah.
That's it. I appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
This is fun, brother. Nice. So I appreciate you all for watching this episode of Secrets of Silent Success. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate your time, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.